All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about and, let's be honest, one of the most misunderstood parts of the Jeffrey Epstein saga, the unsealing of the so-called Epstein Files. In this explainer, we're going to cut right through all the noise and look at what these documents actually are and what they really truly tell us. Okay, before we get into the thick of it, this slide is our guiding principle here. We are looking at public documents from a court case. That's it. So seeing a name in here is just that. A name mentioned in a document. It is not an accusation, and it is definitely not a guilty verdict. Super important to remember. So, here's the game plan for the next few minutes. We'll kick things off with the big question this whole thing has raised. We'll nail down what these files actually are. Then we're going to unpack some of the revelations, put them in context, which is by far the most crucial part, and we'll wrap up with the big questions that are still hanging in the air. You know, when you boil it all down, the release of these files really brings up a massive question. When the private world of a figure like Jeffrey Epstein is just suddenly thrown open for everyone to see, what does that actually reveal? And why has it created such an absolute firestorm? This is the question that has fueled so much speculation online, right? So let's just push pause on the headlines for a second. What are we really looking at when we talk about the Epstein files? Well, that's exactly what we're here to break down. So let's start at the very beginning. Where in the world did this mountain of information even come from? This wasn't just some random leak. It was all part of a very long, very complicated legal battle. First, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about here. This isn't a small stack of papers. We are talking about a collection of over 6 million pages of documents. It is a truly staggering amount of information, and it ranges from the totally mundane to the deeply, deeply disturbing. Okay, so here is the number one thing to remember. The term Epstein Files mostly refers to documents that were unsealed from a 2015 civil lawsuit. This was not some criminal trial's client list. This was all part of the discovery process in a defamation suit brought by accuser Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell. And this right here, this letterhead from the law firm representing Virginia Giuffre, it really drives that point home. These are artifacts from a very specific court case, filled with legal motions and sworn depositions, not some simple black book of names. Now, what's so interesting here is the sheer variety of stuff in these files. You've got everything from personal emails and calendars to official FBI reports. But I want you to look at that last point, unverified third-party claims. This is absolutely critical. These files are full of raw information, and that includes allegations that were never, ever proven to be true. Okay, so with all that context in our back pocket, let's actually get into the revelations themselves. What kind of picture do these documents really paint?
I mean, it's undeniable. The files show that Epstein and Maxwell were moving within this huge, sprawling, and incredibly influential network. The names that pop up come from pretty much every corner of power and influence you can think of, from world politics to big business and even royalty.
Some of the messages are, well, they're pretty startling in just how casual they are. Take this 2013 email from Richard Branson, for example. It gives you a direct window into the kind of language that was being used in these circles. It's a really jarring thing to see written down in black and white. And it's a similar story here. This email from Elon Musk to Epstein back in 2012 asking about a party, it just goes to show the kind of social access Epstein had cultivated. It really highlights how his island was seen as this go-to destination for the global elite. Now, this table is so important because it proves there's no single story here. You've got Bill Clinton's name just mentioned in passing in an email from someone else. You have direct email conversations with the Crown Princess of Norway, who later had to apologize. You have records of Israel's former Prime Minister Ehud Barak staying in an Epstein property. And then you have Epstein himself claiming in an email that he'd advised India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The context for every single name is totally different. And if you're wondering why the net was cast so wide, well, this document right here tells you everything you need to know. The discovery requests in the lawsuit were incredibly broad. They demanded basically every single photo, video, and text message imaginable. And that's why so many names show up, often in these really indirect or passing ways. This brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most critical part of this entire explainer. Because without context, these files are just a confusing and, frankly, a dangerous jumble of names and claims. Let's just say this again, because it absolutely cannot be overstated.
This is the baseline for how to look at these documents responsibly. Just because someone's name appears in a 6 million-page archive does not establish guilt. A lot of the people named have strongly denied having any clue about or any involvement in Epstein's crimes.
So, here's the crucial thing to get your head around. A mention could be anything, from being on a flight log, to having a name in a calendar, to being brought up in some wild, unproven claim made by somebody else. What it doesn't mean is that the person automatically knew about or participated in anything criminal. The specific context for each and every mention is literally everything. And this list just drives that point home perfectly. I mean, look at the full spectrum here. You have bizarre, totally unverified accusations against former presidents. You have a former prime minister of Norway planning a family trip that never even happened. Then you have emails that led to a government minister in Slovakia resigning. It's a complete mixed bag, from financial deals to simple party invitations. So even with this gigantic release of documents, the story is far, far from over. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's only made the mystery deeper and raised a whole lot more questions. Just take a look at this. For all the headlines about the full release, a massive portion of these documents, we're talking millions and millions of pages, is still sealed. We are only seeing a part of the picture. What's in the rest of that archive? Well, that's one of the biggest unknowns of all. And that's really where this all leaves us. We have more information than we've ever had before, but maybe we have fewer clear answers. The release of these files has forced this huge public conversation. But what does true accountability even look like when the man at the center of it all is gone? And with so much still hidden from view, can we really say with any confidence that we even know the full story? That's the question we're all left with.